All right. Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to District 4 Town Hall meeting. I'm very excited to be here this evening. This meeting is for the district, is for the residents. We're prepared to give information. We've got a great agenda with some great resources. So I'm here. I want to share some information from the city. We have someone from Congresswoman Adams' office. We have someone from Senator Waddell's office. Chairman Dunlap is here, will be here as well. We've got the city departments, the economic development, the neighborhood development to provide resources regarding housing, mortgage assistance, and also small business and workforce development. So I'm very excited. I want to thank all of the participants who are here today. We'll show an agenda in just a few moments. I'd like to thank you for participating. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in Facebook or type them in YouTube, and we'll hope to get all of your questions answered tonight. Thank you for your support, and we're looking forward to the town hall. Tonight, speaker, if the agenda, you can put up the agenda, Donata. Our first speaker is Penelope Rule from Congresswoman Alma Adams' office. And as you'll see, our next speaker is listed as Senator Joyce Waddell. She's actually in session right now, so she's going to be participating towards the end of the meeting, but she is scheduled to attend. We have Chairman George Dunlap from Mecklenburg County Board of County Commissioners. Keneal Kopman from Atrium. Atrium is going to be providing some resources and information regarding resources, regarding testing, and just give us some updates. Holly Eskridge is with our City Economic and Development Department, and Miles Vaughn with Housing and Neighborhood Services. So we have a wealth of information tonight, and we hope to be able to provide you with the COVID updates. The first thing that you all may know was announced today that phase 2 in North Carolina has been extended through July 17th. So mask and face coverings will be required in public. There are a couple of exceptions, and that's for children under 11, those with certain medical conditions, and people exercising outdoors away from other people. So make sure you check out the governor's website for updates. Let's go ahead and get started. Penelope?
Hello, how are you? I always have people, they always say, can you hear me? So if you can hear me, let me know.
Hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for inviting me here this evening. My name is Penelope Rule. I'm District Director for Congresswoman Alma Adams. So it's my pleasure to be here on her behalf this evening. As some of you know, or may not know, but she is in DC right now with several rounds of votes that are coming up, very crucial and important votes. And she sends her best regards to all of you, and thanks you, Councilwoman Johnson, for this opportunity to provide a very brief update on some of the things that have been happening in Congress in terms of some of the funding packages that they have been working on legislatively, and also on the HEROES Act, that is a package that recently passed the House. Congresswoman has really been an advocate for the district, and it's her honor to serve the more than 800,000 citizens of the 12th Congressional District. Our office is located on 801, at 801 East Moorhead Street in Charlotte. We have been open this entire time, not taking in-person meetings. However, we've been operating during the COVID-19 pandemic by teleworking. but we have been actively involved with phone call meetings and video conferences, and the Congresswoman has hosted several town meetings, collecting information from constituents, making sure that the packages and bills that she introduces and supports actually reflect the concerns and needs of the district that we all serve. Councilwoman Johnson, you sort of stole that moment of thunder, which was the announcement by the governor. And this is truly a life-changing moment for all of us. And I believe, as does the Congresswoman, that the governor is operating with the utmost concern for every single constituent within the state. And in particular, the Congresswoman is very, very concerned that we've not been as conscientious about social distancing or wearing our mask in public. And now we find ourselves in this space. Since this all started, Mecklenburg County has over 9,000 confirmed cases. We have over 144 people who have lost their lives. Those are families connected to those people. So between that and the unemployment and just this uncertainty about small business, our district is in pain. And so the Congresswoman and her colleagues are working diligently to craft packages that support education, pre-K, healthcare workers, definitely frontline and essential workers, making sure they have safe working environments. And she's been an advocate for that and really has taken OSHA to task on some of their lack of caring for some of the food service workers and some of the processing center workers. But in terms of where we have come from, the Congress has put together several packages, most of which we've all heard of: CARES, the Families First, CARES, and the CARES 2. And those are funds that have already been signed and have been dispersed. And just to sort of run through the numbers very quickly, Congress appropriated $3 trillion to assist small businesses, to assist working Americans, the citizens, families, and the healthcare system. So even in the district, over $212 million, and that's a conservative estimate, federal funds have flowed in to help provide for PPEs or personal protective equipment for our first responders and nurses and doctors. There have been over nearly $7 billion in SBA funds with the small business loans, the EIDL or the EIDL emergency loans, and the emergency grants, trying to help small business. And certainly the SBA has had a few hiccups with that in terms of getting the funds to some of the smaller businesses and some of the minority women-owned businesses. But the SBA has really worked to identify some of the CDFIs, which are some of the funding agencies that tend to favor some of the small businesses. So I would encourage folks to take a look at the SBA's website to see the updated information they have out there on SDFIs, which are the smaller, or not so much smaller, but the funding organizations that favor small business. There's been $75 billion that was approved for personal protective equipment, and $30 billion for testing and more testing. And with everything that has flowed into the state and into the county, our local municipalities are still suffering. The tax revenue is not there, the retail sales, and it's just not there. And so the Congresswoman and her colleagues are really working hard to make sure in this next funding package that municipalities, localities are funded, and that you receive some of the help that hopefully will help, because you are on the front line. You are local government in action. She's doing her part on the federal level, as are she and her colleagues, but on the local level, you are front line. And we really, really appreciate the work that you're doing and that you continue to do every single day on behalf of the constituents. And she wants me to let you know that she promises, as does her colleagues, that in this next funding package, that there will be funds that support local municipalities. So know that she is working for you. Very quickly, I'll go through just the HEROES Act, which is the package that recently passed through the House and is being stalled in the Senate. But there are funds in there for, there's $2.88 billion for North Carolina. There's a package that includes $13 per hour additional pay for frontline essential workers. There's money for education. There's money for personal protective gear. There's money for workers, individuals, and families. So between the stimulus checks, the EIDL loans, SBA loans, there's just a lot of movement, much of which you don't see on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of times constituents don't see the activity. But there is major movement on the back end, trying to make sure funds get to the district and to the individuals and people that need it. On the local level, in terms of our office operations, the district office is the connection between the constituents and federal agencies. So we have a full staff of district liaisons and constituent services staff that field calls on a daily basis regarding issues that constituents may have with federal agencies, whether it's the IRS, Veterans Administration, Social Security. And so I would encourage people, if they have an issue with a federal agency, please give our office a call. And that number is 704-344-9950. And again, that's 704-344-9950. And as I mentioned, we are open and operating on a remote level, but we are still operating on behalf of the constituents. And so that is sort of a nutshell overview of work that the Congresswoman has been doing on behalf of the constituents in the district. And certainly pleased to be a part of this panel. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Penelope. Please share with the Congresswoman that District 4, well, the City of Charlotte and District 4 are truly benefiting from all her advocacy, from the $154 million that the City of Charlotte was granted. We've been able to provide housing assistance and mortgage assistance, small business assistance, PPE equipment for our frontline workers. District 4 has a very high amount of hotels and motels that homeless individuals and those seeking affordable housing live in.
Mm-hmm.
The mortgage assistance and this rental assistance is even being able to be applied to hotels. So we feel that assistance in the district. Furthermore, Sam Spencer in her office direct folks to him all the time who are having trouble with unemployment, and that's at a state level. So your office has been very engaged and very helpful in helping to provide resources for the district. So we feel it, we appreciate it, and thank you. Please send my regards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have, we have Senator Waddell, but she's still in session. She did let me know in advance. So the next person on the agenda we're going to move to is Commissioner Dunlap on the line yet? Are we still having technical difficulties?
He's still experiencing technical difficulties. So we can go to the next person. We are working our best to get him in.
Okay. The next person we have on the agenda then is Keneal Coltman from Atrium Health.
All right. Well, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Good deal. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Councilwoman Johnson, for inviting me to participate. We've got a lot of good things happening that I'm excited to share with your district and the broader community. The first thing I want to share is we just heard earlier about the governor's announcement today I was very proud that our CEO, Gene Woods, actually stood alongside the governor today and shared that Atrium Health, together with the CEOs of Bank of America, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, the Carolina Panthers, Honeywell, Lowe's, and Red Ventures, along with others that will be joining us in the coming weeks, that group has collectively committed to donating 1 million masks, which will be distributed to those most in need. And that's really an investment for us in the health and economic recovery of our community. We really feel like making sure that our community, everyone in our community, has access to face coverings is part of how we can be part of the solution of making sure that we're restarting our economy. But in the meantime, we have done a lot of work to make sure that we are providing great access to testing across our service area. Atrium Health has actually developed a nationally leading testing model where we actually go into different parts of the community. We've done a lot to make sure that parts of our community that may have barriers to in the way of transportation, barriers in the way of accessing virtual care and other technology barriers, that we're really bringing the testing to the communities that need it the most. What I want to make sure that everyone on this call understands is that you don't have to have an appointment at these roving testing sites. So no physician referral, no appointment. We do all the screening on site. And, you know, we have our For All mission to promote health, hope, and healing for all. And so I want to make sure everyone understands that Atrium Health will ensure that the ability to pay will never be a barrier to screening or testing for COVID-19. Basically, all bills for this visit are being held for now. And then if you have insurance, your insurance may be billed at a later time. But if you don't have insurance, you won't be billed for the test. Our locations vary from week to week. And we do this intentionally to make sure that we're bringing testing to the parts of the community with the greatest need. We actually have a map that shows us COVID-19 spread geographically. And so when those hot spots shift in our community, we bring the testing to those parts of the community. We work with churches and clergy and community centers, YMCAs, different host sites to make sure that they're inviting their congregations, their membership, and then we also just share it more broadly. The testing sites for this week, just so everyone's aware, tomorrow we'll be at Silver Mount Baptist Church, which is on 501 West Airwood Road, and that's in Charlotte. And then on Friday, we'll be at St. Mark's United Methodist Church. That's on 917 Clanton Road, also in Charlotte. And then we do send sites testing to sites outside of Charlotte as well. And I do want to make sure everyone understands that our website is also a great resource. So you can go on atriumhealth.org/get-screened, and that'll give you those test sites. So the ones that I just shared, along with the test sites that we have slated for next week, should be loaded up by this evening or by tomorrow at the latest for the next week's sites. But we update those weekly. And then we also have put a lot of educational information on our website. So atriumhealth.org/coronavirus. It has a free online risk assessment to receive recommendations on next steps. You can make this call from anywhere. And then, of course, we have information in Spanish on our website about coronavirus. And then if you call our number, it's our COVID hotline. It's it's 704-468-8888. I'm going to say that one more time in case folks want to write it down. This is our coronavirus hotline, 704-468-8888. There's an opportunity to review your symptoms with a healthcare provider, and you can get care recommendations from there. We have interpreters available in over 200 languages, so language should never be a barrier to be able to access information and to get updates on testing. So that's what we have going on with testing. I do want to raise awareness around some themes and patterns we're seeing in the community around COVID cases. In recent weeks, we've seen a huge increase in the number of positive cases within the Hispanic community. What we're finding is this is largely affecting younger folks who are Hispanic within kind of age 20 to 40 range. We know that there's several reasons why the Hispanic community may be at greater risk for contracting COVID-19. A lot of it has to do with folks just working in essential jobs, being out at work every day, riding in cars together on the way to work. So we know that people's jobs, economic circumstances, living circumstances, make it easier to pass COVID-19 to others. So we're really trying to emphasize masking, social distancing. If you do ride in the car with someone to work, make sure you're wearing that PPE in the car. We have seen a lot of clusters on construction sites in particular. So again, there's a lot of obstacles in the community that are socioeconomic challenges, language barriers, cultural differences, and just fear of accessing the healthcare system. I want to make sure that all members of our community feel safe in accessing care. I want to make sure everyone understands Atrium Health will not share a patient's immigration status. We are in this to keep folks healthy, and so we don't, share. The names of those who test positive have to be submitted to the health department to measure and control infection rates, but all of that information submitted is protected. Patients will never be referred to authorities if they're undocumented. So I just want to make sure folks feel safe and getting the care that they need and accessing testing. And then the last thing that I want to share with everyone is around our signature Kids Eat Free program. We're very proud to bring this program back for another year. It looks a lot different now post-COVID-19, but at Atrium Health University City, we're providing free meals to children through contactless curbside delivery this summer. So it used to be children were welcomed into our cafeterias. Obviously, that's not possible now. Want to make sure everyone understands all children ages 18 and younger are eligible to receive a free hot lunch and breakfast items for the following morning at these sites. That's at Atrium Health University City, and the address for that is 8800 North Tryon Street. The meals are provided through, again, curbside contactless service. We provide them Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we're going to do that all the way through August 21st. Now, that's what we're taking care of Monday through Friday. UNC Charlotte is stepped up and is providing meals on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the summer. And I want to make sure everyone understands there's no questions asked. Families receive meals with no identification required. Anyone that has children can receive those meals. So again, really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the work that we're doing in the community. And then thank you, Councilwoman Johnson, again for the invitation, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Camille. I mean that Atrium's been very responsive, and we've had community leaders want to reach out and schedule testing sites, and I was able to refer them to Atrium. So if we have community leaders or churches on the line that would like to schedule a site at their location, how can they reach out, or are they able to do that?
Yep, absolutely. And we love it when church leaders and other community leaders reach out to us and invite us. We try to come to as many sites as we can that are in those hot spots that we're tracking. We have had some hot spots in and around District 4 that we've had several testing days in. So we love those invitations. We do have some parameters around the type of parking lot that we're able to set up shop in. It's a big operation, but yes, you're welcome to pass those to me in my office offline, and I would love to follow up with them. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Well, next on the agenda, we're going to move to Holly Eskridge. Holly is with our Economic Development Department. And one of the things when the crisis or the pandemic first started, a lot of the inquiries we were getting was from small businesses, because at that time, small business owners or entrepreneurs were not eligible for unemployment. And we just saw this as a crisis for small businesses very, very early. So I'm excited to to present Holly so she can present the information and the resources that the city is doing for small businesses and workforce development. So take it over, Holly.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Johnson. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk about what is absolutely an exciting opportunity. And I echo all the things that Councilmember Johnson said. If we could pull up the PowerPoint so I can just get right to it. I think this one's a lot easier if people are able to see the slides, to kind of be able to write down the information or see the information. And then I can give a web address as well that you can go to for additional information on the application. So the Open for Business campaign is really something that we put together around supporting our small businesses and our workforce during this COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order that has impacted both our workforce and our small businesses. Next slide. It has two main components. One is a Survive component, which I'll go into a little more detail on that on the next slide. And then there's also a Thrive component. So the idea here is, how do we help in this sort of survival phase where our small businesses are really doing that? And then once we are through that phase, how do we then help you thrive through this or any other business disruption? Next slide. So the City Council approved $50 million to go towards the Survive and Thrive strategies that were on the other slide. And so what we've done, Council passed this $35 million of the $50 million. And so today I'm really going to dive into the first one, but just to go over what these other ones are, because everybody's always very interested, and I'll do it very high level. This is a small business partner support grant program. This program actually, we are reviewing the applications right now. And basically it's looking at our small business partners in the community that are doing absolutely amazing things, and how can we support them as a city in either doing more counseling sessions or doing like a pivot in their own programming and small businesses directly in the needs that they have right now. The second is the Open for Business initiative. That's actually a website that supports this larger Open for Business initiative that I'm talking about here. And then we have something next to our workforce initiatives, intensive career cohorts. What that is, my colleague Emily Cantrell actually manages these two initiatives. What these are, they're industry verticals like renewable energy, technology, trade and logistics that have continued even during COVID-19 to see to have open job opportunities. And so how do we upskill our existing workforce, especially those that are unemployed right now due to COVID-19, into these new industry verticals to give them the training, pay for a living wage while they're in the training, and then have a job, guaranteed job placement after. So that's intensive career cohorts. And then workforce partner support is very similar to the small business partner support that I discussed, but it's for the actual workforce partners. The last one I don't have as much information on. That will be my next initiative to start building out. But essentially, it's a small business accelerator. And how are we really truly engaging our small businesses in developing these innovations that are needed for the larger ecosystem to really make those pivots that are necessary during this time? Next slide. So I'm going to dive right into the Access to Capital program. I'm going to go over the qualifications to submit an application. One thing that we heard loud and clear from our leadership and then also from the Small Business Recovery Task Force is this program needed to be easy, it needed to be accessible, we didn't need to have a lot of constraints around it to apply. And so we feel like we've accomplished this. But to apply for this, this program, your headquarters must be located within the Charlotte city limits. Your small business must have 25 or less employees. We have two different levels of awards. With 5 or less employees, you're eligible for a $10,000 reward. And then for 60 to 25 employees, a $25,000 reward. But that one, we will require a W-3 that actually lists your employees. Your total gross sales must be at least $330,000 and less than $2 million in 2019. Your business must have started before January 1st, 2020. There are no current bankruptcy proceedings around the business. You must be able to demonstrate COVID-19 impact. So we have two ways of doing that. The first is if your business fell underneath the governor's executive order. That was the stay-at-home order. And the second is we would need an affidavit signed and notarized that says that you were impacted. So again, hopefully you follow the executive order. If you don't, then we have like for example, professional services. So some consultant type jobs weren't actually under the stay-at-home order. So there have to be an affidavit stating your impact. Again, it's up to you as a small business owner to tell your story of that. It will need to be notarized. We are strict on this one because this is the one guidance that we've gotten from the federal government is that we have to demonstrate COVID-19 impact. And so that's why that one is a little bit stricter than everything else. And we heard loud and clear, there are a lot of small businesses in this community that have not been able to receive programs like PPP, EIDL, the Golden Leaf Fund, and then the last one is our Micro Business Relief Fund that was administered through risk. It was $1 million. So please still submit your application if you have gotten those funding sources. We absolutely want to have those as well, but the priority is given to those that have not received those types of funding. Next slide. You'll be required to submit 3 with your application. The application takes about 25 minutes to complete. 3 documents need to be uploaded with the application. These applications are available in hard copies as well. We have it in 5 languages in addition to English as well. And then we will be having, I'll talk about this in a minute, but some clinics that will be run where we can actually sit down and help people fill these out. So the first column here is at least 1 document is required from this list. You can do all 3 from this list. You can do 2 out of 3 from this list, but at least 1 must be from this list. The first is an IRS letter with the business name and EIN, a bank statement with the business name that needs to be within the last 3 months, utility bill with the business name within the last 3 months, a mortgage statement with the business name also within the last 3 months, a sales and use tax report from Mecklenburg County from 2020, or a certificate of insurance with the business name. And we really wanted to give some additional options in addition to that 1 required document. So other documents that can be submitted are from either your 2018 or 2019 tax return, Form 1040 for a sole prop, Form 1065 for a partnership or LLC, Form 1120 for a C Corp, or Form 1120S for an S Corp. Those are the business types that are eligible for this program. You can also submit a lease agreement. It must be signed with the business name. It has to be, business name, a balance sheet from 2019, or a profit and loss statement from 2019. Next slide. Eligible uses. You can use it, and we require in the application that you tell us how you're going to use it for mortgage assistance, rental assistance, utilities, payroll, or supplies and inventory. Next slide. So here's the timeline. We actually launched the program on Monday, so it is open. We are now sort of in the final phase of the education and community outreach, at least the initial phase of that. That's why I'm speaking to you today. So again, thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for this opportunity. For the phase 1 applications, we're going to be really aggressive in making awards. So phase 1 checks will be issued on 2 separate dates. The first is this coming Tuesday on June 30th. And then the second is we're actually saying the week of July 6th. What we're going to do after that, and we're going to be tracking this anyway, is we're going to be looking at the applications that come in and make sure geographically representative of the whole city, also from a demographic standpoint as well. And so if there's any additional outreach that we need to do, these clinics will also happen around this time as well that I was telling you about. Then we will do more targeted outreach to any kind of underserved geographies or types of small businesses. Then we open the application period back up on July 20th. That will be the same application that is released right now. And then phase 2 checks will be issued probably the week of August 3rd, maybe not on August 3rd. The only thing that we ask that we require is that a business survey must be submitted or filled out by the business who receives our grant funds, probably in September or October. That survey gives us necessary data that we have to report back to the federal government. It's not going to be your actual business name or anything like that. It's just more how did you use the funds, the type of impact, that kind of a thing. What we also ask is if you get an award that you put it on your social media, you tell people about it. We really are relying on our businesses too to actually spread like word of mouth through your social channels about this program. Next slide. So here are some helpful tips. We've already received, obviously it's been open since Monday. We already have some tips of things that we're kind of seeing that we want to point out business owners need to pay attention to. So you need to make sure the EIN or your Social Security number on the application matches the W-9. So that is critically important. They have to match. When entering your EIN or Social Security number, don't use dashes in the application. If you use dashes, it cuts off your number. Legal documents provided must be signed and executed. So the example is it should be a signed lease or a signed W-9. And then the business name, and then the action that is your registered business name. So for example, if I think like Kentucky, if it's KFC Incorporated, like Kentucky Fried Chicken uses Kentucky Fried Chicken, what we would need is Kentucky Fried Chicken to be KFC Incorporated, and then also on the application, KFC Incorporated. We needed the same name throughout, even if you call your business something different than what you register it. And then the business address also must match across the document. As documents as much as practical to the company. But yes, match everything as much as you can. Next slide. So there's an email address here where you can ask questions. Foundation for the Carolinas is an amazing partner that we are working with, and they're doing the administration of this program. They also have a phone number where they have actual people who pick up the phone and they can help advise you on the application itself. And then here's the web address where the application is located. And again, that's where the application is located. I have that right on there. And also additional information. There's a good frequently asked questions page, things like that on that site. So that's my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Those resources are so practical and so accessible. So we're looking forward to serving lots of small businesses. So thank you. We have Commissioner Dunlap on the phone, on the line. Welcome, Commissioner Dunlap.
Well, thank you.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah, that was tough, but we got through it. So I'm happy to be able to join you.
Well, thank you. So the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, let me just say good evening to everybody who's participating and to those who might be watching or listening as well. So I want to talk just a little bit about what's happening over on the county side. And I use these opportunities to do a little education. In fact, it was so interesting. I was talking to a good friend the other day, and he said he didn't live inside the city. And I say, so you only pay county taxes? He said, well, county taxes are high. I said, but what if you lived in the city? He said, you mean I'd have to pay more? I said, oh, yeah, you'd have to pay county taxes and city taxes. And so a lot of people don't realize just what the county is responsible for and who pays county taxes. So every citizen of Mecklenburg County who owns property pays a property tax. Whether you live in Matthews, Mid-Hill, Davidson, Pineville, Cornelius, or the city of Charlotte, there's 7 municipalities located within Mecklenburg County. And so everybody pays county property tax. You also pay a property tax depending on which municipality you live in. So if you live in Charlotte, you pay a county tax and you pay a Charlotte city tax. Or if you live in Mecklenburg County and Pineville, you pay Mecklenburg County tax and a Pineville tax. And so what are the Mecklenburg County taxes used to do? So when I explain this to people, I typically talk about hard services versus soft services. I usually refer to the city as being your hard services. That's your police, fire protection, your streets, your roads, your water, things of that nature. With the county, we're primarily responsible for health and human services, your park and recreation, your libraries, your jails, and good gracious, your school system. And so when we collect taxes, that's primarily where our funds go. So we just recently passed our budget. Our budget this year for the 2021 year is $1.9 billion. Of that $1.9 billion, a lot of citizens don't realize that 50% of those dollars go to education. And when we say education, that is primarily CMS and Central Piedmont Community College. And while by law, we are only obligated to give CMS $80 million each year, we gave them this year $426 million. And so that's a lot of money. And so some of you might start hearing that Mecklenburg County is now asking for some accountability. And I don't understand why we've not had any accountability in the past, but now we're asking for accountability. In other words, we want CMS to demonstrate to us how and where they use the funds that we give them, especially those funds over and above the $80 million that we're required to give them. One of the things you will notice about the educational dollars is that there are pass-through dollars that go to CMS, but when CMS gets them, they have to pass those dollars on to other organizations, primarily charter schools. I understand that this year, of the $527 million we gave CMS, they gave $90 million to charter schools. Now, people tend to think that that's unfair, but charter school students are also residents of Mecklenburg County. And so the dollars follow the child. One of the things that you will notice if you pay close attention to that is that this year, CMS student population increased by about 400 students, but the charter schools population increased by 1,900. And so you'll see a larger percentage each year going to charter schools. In fact, this year, charter schools got an additional $9 million out of that $427 million. Additionally, one of the requirements that we put on CMS this year was that CMS would pay all of its non-certified employees a minimum livable wage at $15 an hour. And so they have over 3,000 employees, which includes custodial staff, cafeteria staff, and teacher assistants that were not making a livable wage. And in fact, some of those people apply for assistance through the county because of their income. So at the beginning of the school year, they will be required to pay a livable wage to those employees. So let me just talk a little bit about some of the things that was included in our budget this year and some of the things we were able to do. One of the things that the county commissioners are really high on is education. And so while we gave the $426 million to CMS and other monies to Central Piedmont Community College, we also spent, I think, for pre-K, MEC pre-K, an additional $21 million additional this year. That is to ensure that all kids who are 4 years of age, who parents are eligible, those 4-year-old children will be in an educational program. We do that because we understand that the brain develops at an early age, and we want to catch children when they're young so that they enter school ready to learn. If you look at the research, we find that by grade 3, a lot of African American children drop out of school. And there's a number of reasons why that is so. For people who have followed my history, you know, I spent 12 years on the school board prior to being on the county commission for 12 years. And what we learn is that some of that is in part because of the teachers that they get. When you have a low-performing teacher educating children and you get a low-performing teacher for 3 years in a row, those children rarely, if ever, catch up educationally, which is one of the reasons why we have these mandates on what happens educationally. And it's also one of the reasons why for 3 years consistently, Mecklenburg County increased teacher supplements by at least 1%. So now our teachers receive 3% above their state salary to make sure that they're the highest paid teachers in the state of North Carolina, which we achieved on last year. Let's see. All total, more than half of our budget goes to education. In addition to that, every 2 years, the Board of Commissioners sets forth its priorities. The priorities for the Board of County Commissioners, as set 2 years ago, the number one priority was ending racial and ethnic disparities. Also in those top priorities was education, park and recreation, early childhood education. And so on the board's priorities, those things that we consider to be a priority, this year we spent $65.1 million. That was on early childhood education, mental health, parks and recreation, affordable housing, and reducing racial disparities. Oftentimes people ask the question, well, what do you mean when you talk about reducing racial disparities? One of the things that we've embarked upon over the last 2 years is to look at all of our policies and procedures and to see what policies and procedures might be in place that would give a disadvantage to those minority or ethnic groups that either use our services or apply for grants or want to do business with Mecklenburg County. And so we've done a lot in terms of going through those policies and procedures, changing those that adversely affect people due to their race or ethnicity. In addition to that, we gave lots of money for affordable housing this year. I think a little over $12 million. In fact, well, it might be up to 18 million now because we gave $6 million to Enlivian so that they can build 110 affordable units on North Tryon Street when they redevelop the properties right there at 8th and Tryon Street. We spent $86 million this year in public health, which is another of our priorities. We understand that that one of the things that the COVID has demonstrated to us is that there are health issues that are primarily in the African American community: heart disease, diabetes, our chronic health issues. If we don't eliminate those disparities, then what we realize is that people of color have a shorter lifespan. And so we spent a significant amount of money to help reduce those barriers to healthy eating, healthy living. We've allocated nearly $3 million for food insecurities. So what we're looking for is partnerships so that we can create places where people in food deserts can access healthy food, fresh fruits and vegetables, so that they can have healthier living. Additionally, we spent a significant amount of money to expand senior nutritional services, foster care placement. Some of you might be familiar with Raise the Age, where now in the state of North Carolina, historically you were considered adult at the age of 18. Now at 16, you are considered an adult. Now you're considered an adult at age 18, which means that there are more younger people in our juvenile system. So we had to spend a significant amount of money for Raise the Age, which is what it's called, to ensure that there are beds and housing for those people who have not yet reached age 18. So those are the highlights of our budget. I think one of the things you asked me to be prepared to talk about is the Homestead Exemption Act. And I want to make sure that people understand who's available for that, because there are a lot of people not yet taking advantage of that. If you are 65 years of age or older, you live in your home, it's registered in your name, you pay taxes, you are eligible for reduced taxes based on that. And it is combined income, so if it's both you and your wife, if you make less than $31,000, then the first $25,000 of your property tax value is exempt, and you pay 50% of the property taxes on top of that. So that's a significant savings for people who are age 65 or older. And if you are in that age category, I would encourage you to go to Mecklenburg County website, look up Homestead Exemption Act, fill out the application right there online, submit it, and they will process it to determine whether or not you meet the criteria necessary to be exempt from your taxes. So I'll stop right there and see if maybe there's some questions or if there's some other things that I might need to talk about that I haven't talked about.
Commissioner, we were going to save questions to the end if you are available.
I'm available.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information. That's very important. Do you have any information about COVID as far as the orders or anything at county level, numbers or anything you want to share, or any information that we should know?
Well, thank you for that. In fact, some of you have heard that, and I know the city has talked about imposing mandatory mask, but today the governor came out and issued an order very similar to the one that we were going to issue. So we're not going to do ours. We're going to just ask everybody to follow the governor's order so that we'll be consistent across Mecklenburg County. But the governor is going to require persons who leave their home to wear a mask. When you're out in the public, when you enter a restaurant, you must wear a mask, except for when, of course, you're eating. And it also requires business establishments to require you to wear a mask. That's one of the ways we're going to get compliance, is that if people can't go anywhere except for they have to wear a mask, then in fact, they'll either wear a mask or they won't go anywhere. And so I'm real happy about that. I'm always excited when we can go a day and people say there were no deaths related to COVID. But I will tell people that COVID is real. I have lots of friends who have had COVID. In fact, I had some family members who had COVID. And if you talk to people, depending on how severe it was, it was touch and go for some people, and some people just quarantined for 14 days and they were fine. And I tell people, you don't know what case you're going to get. You don't know whether you're going to get a case and end up in the hospital, or whether you're going to just have to quarantine yourself for 14 days. So it's best that you do what is necessary to avoid getting the virus. And we know from research that some of the best ways to avoid that is to wear a mask, to wash your hands, and to social distance. And we find that people who will follow those three things are less likely to get the virus. Doesn't mean that you won't, but they are less likely to get the virus. So we would ask that people comply with the order and at least do those three things, because one of the things that would hurt our economy more than anything else is for us to have to go back to phase one, where we start closing down our businesses and issue a stay-at-home order. We're doing everything we can to avoid having to do that. We simply ask for compliance to help us get there.
Thank you, Commissioner. And one of the things you'll notice is that I did ask the Commissioner about the COVID and the rules and the orders, because this is a public health crisis, and the city has followed the county's lead and directives for the most part. There is a group that works together that includes city and county and first responders, but we are following the advisement of the public health director. So thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. If Senator Waddell is not on the line yet, she had a meeting tonight, so she's in session, and so she was going to try to make it. But if she's not on the line yet, we'll move to Miles Vaughn from our Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. He's got some great information regarding resources for housing and mortgage assistance. So go ahead, Miles. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilwoman Johnson, and good evening to all fellow panelists as well as others participating in this town hall. You heard earlier some of the extensive support that the federal government has provided with COVID-19 related relief thereby that has been significantly supported, of course, by Councilwoman Alma Adams, which we're tremendously appreciative of there. The city's received some of that support, of course, there. And there are three initiatives in particular that I'd like to share with you here. One of them is the Rental Relief Assistance Program provided. It's actually called ERAP, Emergency Rental Relief Program. And the city, working closely with one of our partners, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership, has rolled out a program whereby households that have been unfortunately adversely impacted by COVID-19 by the loss of income, whether it's a reduction in income, a complete loss of job, or for some households they can no longer work because of the lack of provision of child care because the daycare is closed there. Those households, unfortunately, that are renting units there are in a difficult, dire situation whereby they're unable to pay their rent. So this program is targeted specifically to those households. And basically, they'll have to meet some income requirements. That's basically 80% of the area median income or less. For right now, that's about, for a family of four, that's about $66,000. And what they can do is they can qualify for up to 3 months of rental assistance. That assistance will be paid directly to their landlord. Initially, the first rollout of this program, we were honing in specifically on sites or apartment complexes or units that were supported by the city, receiving some type of city assistance. However, due to a second tranche of funds, we were able to broaden the pool of eligible properties that can participate in the program. So right now, any tenant who lives in a rental unit, whether it's single family or an apartment complex, that meets the income guidelines and also qualifies because they have an eligible event, thus the loss of income as a result of COVID-19 related activity, they now qualify for receiving this assistance. There is a site that the tenants can go to, and I'll share that a little bit later on, with the complete application. The application is not asking for Social Security information. It's not asking for their immigration status as well. There, it's for the most part honing in specifically on where they live, the name of the apartment complex there, and other critical information, because what will have to happen is that because the funds are going directly to the landlord as opposed to the tenant, we have to make sure that the landlord is aware of the tenant's application for this process. So if in fact there's an apartment complex that is not a city-supported complex, but nonetheless there's a tenant who needs the assistance, they will have to see to it that their landlord applies or completes an application online as well, so that they can enroll that property into the program. So again, they can receive up to 3 months of assistance. And if there's assistance needed beyond that time period on a case-by-case basis, we can certainly put that in consideration there. But what we've noticed a couple of trends already with the use of these funds. To date, we've approved about 344 tenants for assistance. We've also noticed that a number of the tenants, the key reason for their need for income is because they have actually lost income. We've also noticed that a number of the households that apply for this funding are within the city limits. Of course, that's one of the requirements there. But many of the tenants feel that at some particular point, they feel that they are going to hopefully increase their level of income so that they will no longer need the assistance there. By and large, what we're noticing is that those households, again, these are low to moderate income households, are adamant about not losing their units there. The reason for that is that they are well aware of how difficult it is to obtain affordable housing in the city of Charlotte. We know that there's a dire need for it. So the Rent Relief Program, or ERAP, has played a key role in helping to keep households within their units there, thus not exacerbating our homelessness challenge. The partner that we're working with, I mentioned, is the Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. They have extensive experience working with tenants, working with homeowners as well there. And in addition to the financial assistance that these households receive, they also receive some counseling. For example, the counselor may explain to them if you're receiving if it's a reduction of income, here's the way that you can reduce your budget. Here's how you can better plan and utilize the existing resources. If there's a complete loss of income, they've lost their jobs, they can work with them in terms of pointing them into the direction of resources for job training and potential employment as well. So the assistance goes beyond the actual financial assistance. It's helping to uplift these households to get them back in a situation where they can be viable and self-sustaining. So that's the rental assistance program. And to date, we've received approximately $4 million from one tranche of funding and a little over $1 million for the initial tranche of funding. So a little over $5 million to go toward this particular assistance. The second program that we have, the second initiative that we have to provide assistance that's COVID-19 related, is called the Mortgage Relief Assistance Program, or EMAP, Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program. And similar to the ERAP, the Rental Assistance Program, is targeted to households, in this case homeowners, who have experienced some sort of reduction in income as a result of the COVID-19 related event. So again, it could be that they've lost their jobs, it could be that they have experienced a reduction in the income, but nonetheless, it's something that will prevent them from paying their mortgage. Some experience that it prevents them from paying their mortgage. Now, initially, the focus was on, again, households that were receiving some sort of city assistance, primarily through our down payment assistance program, House Charlotte. However, we have now broadened the pool of eligibility so that any homeowner who's experiencing a loss of income and thus have a challenge with regard to making their mortgage payments, they now can qualify for receiving assistance by way of the EMAP program. There's going to have to be income verification, of course. You're going to have to make sure that those households are at 80% of the area median income or less. And the way the payments are structured is that the payments aren't sent to the borrower. It's sent directly to the lender. So we've noticed initially that there was a little bit of a challenge getting these funds out in a timely fashion because the lenders were a little bit hesitant to provide us with the information we need in order to solicit and send those funds to them. But we've since gained some traction with the number of lenders there and are making the payments directly to them. For the most part, what we've noticed in terms of the difference between participation for the two programs is that there tends to be a lower level of participation for the mortgage assistance program because most homeowners will find other ways to cover their mortgage. Initially, at least, there are a couple of other options that they have as well, working things out with their lenders, whether they get a deferral, forbearance, other arrangements as well. So a number of the homeowners are exploring any and all options to make sure that they don't run the risk of losing their homes by going into default with regard to their mortgage. However, in those instances where they do need the assistance, we're making sure that they get that assistance in as timely a fashion as possible. This program is being administered by our community partner, Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. And the good thing about, again, them participating in this program is that they have an extensive housing homeownership center, whereby for those that are receiving the EMAP assistance, if there's a need for any type of counseling, they can also receive counseling with regard to budgetary, financial literacy, and other to help prepare them to avoid, hopefully, a situation in the future where there's an experience of a loss of income, or to help them as well as determine what's the best way of managing what may be now limited resources to make sure that they prioritize and cover those expenses in a timely fashion. So those are the two major programs that the city has rolled out with regard to housing assistance to tenants as well as homeowners to help prevent them from becoming homeless or prevent them from losing their homes as well. There's a third initiative that we're in the process of working with another community partner and rolling out. That initiative is focused more so on providing households that are currently living in hotels with assistance to transition out of hotels into permanent housing. So that initiative, we're partnering with the Salvation Army, as well as what used to be the men's shelter, now a roof above, and making sure that those households that they've placed into hotels are able to transition into permanent housing by overcoming one of the key barriers they tend to encounter. That is the initial deposit, rental deposit, as well as the security deposit. What we're finding is that a number of households have income. They may have low income, but they do have income. But saving, because they're on tight budgets, saving to come up with that security deposit or that initial 2 to 3 months of security deposit is a bit of a challenge there. So this program is earmarked specifically to help those households get that type of assistance so they can transition into permanent housing. The social service working closely, that's a nonprofit organization that has strong ties to landlords, is working closely with us on that. And they're helping to place these households into this permanent housing situation here. With the second tranche of funds that we've received, we've done something to hone in specifically on that population as well, whereby you have households who may not necessarily be placed in a hotel because of the transition or because of the referral from the Salvation Army or a roof above, and they're actually living in hotels and still need assistance with regard to remaining within those hotels because they experience some sort of a loss of income due to COVID-19. We've since broadened the program so that we will also make assistance available to those households as well. So those are the three tranches of COVID-19 related assistance that the city is providing to help households stay in their homes, stay in their apartments, or transition into permanent housing as well. And thankfully for the assistance that, again, Councilwoman Alma Adams, as well as others, have provided us to make sure that those tranche of funds continue to flow. We're truly appreciative of it. Anyone that's interested in taking a look at this assistance there, or referring someone for it, they can go to www.rampclt.com. That's rampclt.com. Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Thank you very much, Miles. Your audio was a little distorted, so I just want to recap a couple things that I heard, and also we'll have question and answer at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just recap what you said. You said the ERAP is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That's for individuals who are earning 100% of the area median income, right? And they're eligible for rental assistance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said that program, they can also be eligible for case management and budgeting through social serve. Is that correct?
They can be eligible for case management through our partner, Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership.
Okay. And if they're interested or they need to contact Charlotte Housing Partnership, right?
Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership, or go to the website. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And then the EMAP, the Emergency Mortgage Assistance, same income requirements, 80% of the area median income. And you'll provide mortgage assistance for, did I hear you say 3 months?
Up to 3 months, yes.
Okay. And the payments will go directly to the lender. But one of the things that we recently learned is if someone has a federally backed loan, they may be eligible for up to 1 year of mortgage deferral, right? If their income has been affected by COVID.
Yes.
Okay, so they could reach out to their lender if they don't know which type of loan they have, or if they have the federally backed loan. If not, there's assistance through the city and through the housing partnership, which is awesome.
Yes.
And lastly, and I was telling Congresswoman Adams, but Penelope, her legislative assistant, or director, how helpful this funding was because of the hotel assistance. Our district is quite significantly. So now there's hotels for individuals living in hotels through, first of all, there's assistance through social serve, but this program through the city is to help them transition from the hotels through deposit assistance with one of the partners, specifically Salvation Army, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And then, Donata, do you have the slide that I sent you regarding the dispute settlement program through the city? I want to share that information as well. I think this is a great resource for anyone who has an outstanding balance with their landlord, with a hotel, or any mediation that they'd like to seek. There is a free process through the city, and it's the dispute settlement program. So landlords and tenants can contact the Community Relations Department and make a self-referral for dispute settlement, the program for mediation. This is faster than going through the courts. This is cheaper because it's free. And also for any landlords or tenant, if you have an outstanding balance and this has not been filed with the court, this is going to prevent, hopefully, those court filings, because once an eviction is on your record, it's a scarlet letter. So this is a process that the city already had in place, but that they're really amping up right now in hopes to prevent more eviction filings. And those cases that have been filed to the court, we're working with the court to move those through the system even faster. And if you look at the flyer, one of the things that's happening is during the mediation process, it's a possibility that rental assistance may be available through a referral. So we're asking landlords, we're asking tenants, we're asking hotel owners, we're asking hotel tenants to contact the Community Relations Department. This is a resource. This is a practical resource that's available for you. So if we can leave that up for just a moment, is Senator Waddell on the line yet?
She is not.
Okay, that's fine. We thank her for her service. We know that she was in a legislative session tonight, so she may not make it before the end of the call. If she does, she's always welcome. So if we don't have any more speakers at this time, we'll start with questions that we've received throughout the presentation. I have some of the questions. The first question is I'm sorry, if I mispronounce your name, Penelope, right? Penelope. Okay, good.
Right.
Penelope, we have one that asks, what can they do as a Charlotte resident to support the Congresswoman as she works to push through important legislation?
That's an excellent question. And advocacy, communication, and voting. Being civically engaged, making sure that you complete the census, which is very important in terms of funding and how the funding flows into our community. An engaged population is probably the most valuable asset a community can have. And as it relates to the work that the Congresswoman does, informing yourself, she has a website at adams.house.gov. And we share all kinds of information out there in terms of legislation, pending legislation, her stance on different issues. We have quite a bit of COVID-19 information and resources connecting to a lot of the resources that have been mentioned this evening on this webinar. But thank you for that question. Stay engaged. And if you ever have a question, you can always call our office. And we'll be happy to direct you to resources or share information on upcoming legislation that we might need you to call your representatives on.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully we can get that website typed into the comments so that that will be available for everyone, as well as any other websites or email addresses that were shared.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Senator Waddell has joined us.
Welcome, Senator Waddell. Thank you for joining us. Are you there?
I see a picture of Senator Waddell. Can you hear us?
What we can do is then continue with the questions, and then she can present, and we can ask her the questions directly after, if we're unable to hear or see her.
That sounds good.
Okay. Penelope, another question. Is there any news regarding extending the COVID-19 unemployment benefits or another stimulus payment?
There absolutely is, as part of the discussion of the HEROES Act. And currently the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, actually goes for 39 weeks from the initial point of filing a claim. That has been a tremendous benefit for folks who typically don't qualify for state benefits. So this federal PUA is that additional $600 potential fund that's available for 39 weeks right now. But as part of the HEROES Act, they're looking at additional funding, including additional stimulus funding.
So if a person can qualify for state benefits, how do they apply for the PUA? They still apply through the state website?
Absolutely. Yes, the Division of Employment Security, .gov, They go there and complete the information, and they will probably, if they're not eligible for state benefits, they will be denied for the state benefit, but they qualify for the federal benefit. So what that did was it opened up this opportunity for a huge number of independent contractors, barbershops, beauty salons, all those folks who don't typically qualify for state benefits would qualify for the federal funding.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Got another question for you. Keeping up with the local, state, and federal government action is overwhelming. What is the easiest way to keep up with what's happening at the state level? That, if you have that answer, or we can wait and ask that to Senator Waddell. Okay.
Yeah, for the state, I certainly would not jump in on that one, but for the federal, in terms of legislation or looking up different bills, Congress.gov is a wonderful sort of all-inclusive resource.
Okay. And then if you can type, or someone can type the information, if someone's having trouble getting through to the unemployment department, you say they can reach out to your office?
Yes. We actually, as a federal agency, aren't responsible for the actual implementation of the unemployment benefits. However, because we have a relationship and we have congressional contacts with the department, if someone has an issue, we're happy to do what we can to connect them as best we can. As everyone understands, they are still overwhelmed with the number of claims they're processing. So even for us at this moment, things are a little slow, but we certainly will be happy to try and assist, but it's just slow at this point.
Okay, thank you. And I know you're not responsible, but your office has truly, truly been helpful.
We certainly try. Thank you. Thank you.
So, okay, the next question is for Keneal. Are you there? Good, you're back. Okay. Keneal, what should a person do if they have an underlying condition that impacts their breathing? Do they still have to wear a mask?
You know, I'm not a health expert, and so I would certainly defer to the doctors on that one. I would advise that person to go ahead and reach out to his or her primary care physician and have that dialogue with them about, you know, this is what's going on. I mean, certainly if you have an underlying health condition, we already think that you're more at risk for COVID-19 and at risk for more severe symptoms if you were to contract COVID-19. So I'd really want to encourage that person, you know, stay home, social distancing, be careful who you're around, especially if you're not able to wear a mask comfortably in public. Obviously, I think all those conversations are going to start to circulate as we begin to implement the governor's orders today. But I would start with that person's primary care physician.
Okay. Second question, are Atrium sites able to test asymptomatic people who have been in large groups or work in a high-risk setting?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad for that question because particularly after the protests that we had in recent weeks, we really wanted to make sure that anyone who was a participant or in attendance of a protest had access to testing. Our roving testing sites that I mentioned earlier are kind of a one-stop shop to be able to get testing. But also if you call the COVID hotline that I mentioned earlier, and share with the person that you're speaking with that you've been in a large crowd and you would meet our testing criteria as a result of that.
Okay. And that number is 704-468-8888. Right?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Holly, the next question is for you.
Okay.
Can nonprofits apply for the Access to Capital grant?
This funding source is only for for-profit small businesses. So no, not this funding, not this program.
Okay. What happened to the Micro Business Relief Fund for businesses under 5 people that gross income doesn't meet the minimum requirements for SBA or the the foundation for Carolina?
So the reason why we had to put the 30,000 for the way this program is set up, I mean, that's a great question. I know the resources are very limited for a business that has under 30,000 in revenue. I think our minimum is actually lower than most programs. But in order to be able to, the way this program is designed, and we were asked to design it with the ease of access and the documentation, we needed to put a minimum on there and a maximum in order to make sure that we are adhering to any kind of the CARES Act guidelines that we've received to date. Now, if the city wanted to do a separate program for those with under 30,000 in revenue, or for example, business that started after January 1st, 2020, then that could happen. It would just need to be, I mean, that would obviously have to be up to our leadership, but it would just have to be designed very differently, because we would need to actually be able to, when we get audited, because we will get audited on these funds, we just have to have a lot more documentation and a lot more hands-on work with those businesses than this current program allows for or calls for.
Okay, thank you. I have another question for you. Now that the governor has announced that we will stay at home in phase 2 for 3 more weeks, is the city working on providing additional grants for small business owners to help them survive through the extended period?
So I don't know that we've had anything in addition to the $30 million. I mean, the program that I talked about today, it's $30 million worth of funding that's been designated to that. And so we really encourage our businesses to apply to that. Again, even if you have received federal or state or the list funding that we had, the initial $1 million, we still encourage you to apply and get in the queue. But $30 million should do around, at a minimum, 2,100 awards to small businesses in the community.
What's the maximum award?
So what we're doing, again, to make it as easy as possible, is we're saying for this program, 5 and under, it's a straight award. You're eligible for a straight award of $10,000, and then 6 to 25, it's a straight award of $25,000.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully we can put that slide back up just in case someone signed on late, and put that website for applications in the comments. Okay, let's see what I have. Commissioner Dunlap, what mental health resources are available for residents who are having a difficult time coping with the impact of COVID-19?
Well, there are some resources available, and what we did with our budget is we put additional dollars in our budget for that purpose. But what I would just suggest is that if people would just call mental health and go through the normal process that anybody would go, whether it's related to COVID or some other disability. There's no special treatment that I'm aware of that would require people to treat you differently if you have a mental health condition. So I would just suggest that they would go through the normal process that anybody else would and call mental health.
Okay. As far as that, our behavioral health resource here in Charlotte is Cardinal Innovations. They use a toll-free number, and I can share that. Donata, if you can type this in the comments. Cardinal Innovations is 800-939-5911. And we used to have, and we should also post Donata, the suicide prevention hotline. We'll share that in those resources, and that's 1-800-273-TALK, TALK. And then there was one other service, and it was an emergency crisis service. Commissioner Dunlap, do you know if that's still funded, the emergency crisis team?
It is.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, this is kind of what I do outside of city council. So emergency crisis team. And these individuals, these are trained social workers that will come to you. And I will get that number while Senator Dunlap is talking. She is
Senator Waddell.
Senator Waddell, I'm sorry.
I've been waiting. I've been here.
He's speaking that into existence. Not kidding.
No, they blocked me out. I was blocked out. I've been sitting here for about over 30 minutes.
We're sorry that we had some.
That's all right.
Welcome and thank you. Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Okay, just wanted to share with you that Mecklenburg, the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg, got in their own pot of money, $150 million. So let me talk about House Bill 1023, which is an act to provide additional and revised uses for federal coronavirus relief funds. And I'll tell you some of the things that are important in this, because we're looking at about a 20-page document. But I'll talk about some of the things that are important to us, mainly around the school issues and also around our community. First of all, there are a lot, and I heard you talking about community health. There are a lot in $7,425,000 to nonprofit organizations to be used for distribution to its member health centers to cover the cost of eligible health services provided during COVID-19. So most of the money that's given out comes through the county and the city of Charlotte, and they make the distributions, not directly to the state, except for many of the loan programs. And that's really not the state. It's other organizations and banks that the money comes through. But I talk about the availability of it. And so with that $157,425,000 is given for community health organizations. There are all kinds of funds available, but you have to know where they are, and you have to work with your city and county. Mecklenburg was fortunate, as well as Wake County, two of the largest counties in the state, to be given the leadway to get the lump sum of money and for them to be able to make distributions of much of the funds. Now we're going to talk about some things that are important to us, like driver's education. There's just a whole lot of things that have been deferred as a result of COVID-19, things that we've never seen before. In fact, when it comes to driver's education, students are able to skip one phase of it and go right to get their permits, some things that they had never been able to do before. I'm just going to start talking more about it. Now, they also have $75 million to the Department of Public Instruction for emergency school nutrition. Many of the students, and especially in our rural counties, were not able to get school nutrition, a good meal, because they weren't going to school. So this is additional funds, including innovative school meals provided to students, public school units participating in the nutritional school lunch program. So they've come now with an additional funds, because we're thinking tomorrow's going to be our last day. Additional funds in order to help students. Funds for these services will be given in the same manner as those who were participating in public school units. The dollars will be given from the state to the locals for them to use in that regard. There'll be $400,000 to the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources for the state library for North Carolina kids' digital libraries. There'll be $725 million to the Department of Commerce to allocate for international homes and the things that they have not been able to do because of this lockdown. There will be, I'm just highlight some things that are maybe important to us. $5 million to the Department of Health and Human Services for mental health. I know you were talking about that, for mental health development, disabilities, and substance abuses. That will be given to group homes for individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities or both, to support the implementation of recommended Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidance among residents and staff facilities. There'll be $5 million to the Department of Public Instructions to hold in reserve and to award grants and the discretion of the department to public school units that apply for funds to provide access services for exceptional children who have lost critical services as a result of school closures. So you see that money is going to be coming to the schools, but it will be coming to the Department of Public Instruction, and they in turn will allocate it to the schools. So that's how the money comes. You don't directly call our office and ask for it. But there's the number 211. You may have talked about that before, and that's just like for us for 311, 211. And when you ask questions at 211, they should be able to give you the answers to any of the questions that you have when it comes to COVID-19. Some things are very specialized. $2,500,000 will be given to any county designated as a developmental 2 area county. And Mecklenburg is not a 2 area because they consider us rich all the time, with a population of less than 150,000, and that has a hospital located within its borders. So they will get an additional $202,500,000. When it comes to grant types and criteria, the department shall develop policies and procedures for distribution of grants authorized, such as the department may provide 3 categories of grants: capacity enhancement grants, and this grant is available to an eligible meat processing facility. I don't think we even have a meat processing facility in Mecklenburg that is experiencing shutdowns and productions or has limited capacity to accommodate increasing demand for meat. Workforce development grant, and this grant is available to an eligible meat processing facility that is experiencing additional shutdowns. Other areas that are of interest to us and legislation that we have covered, they will extend the grant for the North Carolina Transforming Principal Program. You know, we had talked about that once before. Some additional Senate bills will go with it that will have funds available as a result of what has happened. They will allow, and one of the things I continue to talk about some of the funds that are available, and then I'll talk about some recent bills. I can start talking about that if you want me to. Some recent bills that were passed just recently as a result of our shutdown, some that we agreed with and some that we did not agree with. Also, there will be increases from $5 million to $7 million given to community health centers to expand the authorized uses from costs of eligible health services. And I think we have some health agencies that will benefit from this. Subdivision will allow $5 million to DHHS, and that will we said that will cover group homes, so they will get money as well. They will have this is what we went over yesterday and today, and what we voted on one by one, and everybody had to put their 2 cents in. there will be job retention grants, and that it will be $15 million that will help with people who lost their jobs. There'll be a grant program that is available to a business or to a nonprofit. But here's the catch to it. If they retain in North Carolina at least 90% of its full-time employees or full-time equivalent employees during the period March 1 through May 31st, that is employed in North Carolina at the end of February, suffered an economic loss during this period of time compared to the same period of time in the previous year, and did not participate in the Payback Protection Program or the Main Street Lending Program. So this is a group of people who've been left out.
Okay.
So it's money for people who've been left out and did not get money from other sources.
Mm-hmm.
The parameters of the program are based upon many of the guidelines in the Paycheck Protection Program. The maximum grant amount a business may receive under this program is $500,000. A business or nonprofit that wishes to apply for a grant must do so by September the 1st, 2020. If the amount of the eligible grant awards exceeds the amounts of funds provided for the grants, then each grant will be reduced proportionally. Then there's money for the Domestic Violence Prevention Pilot Program. $3,500,000 will be used for that. And that's, remember the number 211 if you have questions about anything. 211 should be the number that will provide answers to anything that you want to know about COVID-19 or that you want to know about coronavirus funds or occurrences. Much of the calls that I've gotten were concerned about people who had applied for and did not get unemployment. For some reason, all the checks were late. So what we've done is taken that list, given it to the persons that are responsible so that it could expedite it. And in a lot of cases, they were able to get their funds. But we're continuing to work on that and continue to make certain that people who are eligible for funds will be able to get them. Tell me when you want me to start.
Okay, no, thank you for that information and those updates. 211 is certainly an important resource. And also, thank you for the work that you guys are doing. The unemployment has just been a lifesaver for everyone. We know that there was a huge increase and just on the filings for unemployment. So thank you for any help that you can provide. If the person is having challenges getting through to unemployment, we have one resource that we've shared. Do you have an email address or someone that they can contact?
Oh, absolutely. They can contact Joyce Waddell at ncleg.net. Okay.
And we'll share that in our comments.
Absolutely. And you have that on your list because you've been you've contacted me several times. In fact, I've heard several times out today from your office.
Okay.
So you have that.
We'll share that information. Thank you, Senator, and sorry for the technical delay.
That's all right.
Okay.
Councilman Johnson, before Senator Waddell leaves, do you mind if I ask a question?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sure you're aware of what's happening as it relates to all these Confederate monuments across the state. And last year, I think it was, or several years ago, the legislature enacted a rule that required counties to get permission before they can remove a Confederate monument. There is one in Mecklenburg County on county property, and we've asked that we be granted the right to move that monument So what is the process for having that piece of legislation rescinded?
You know what? You heard from Governor Cooper already, and he's already issued his statement concerning those monuments. But to have the process to have that, your question, to have that rescinded or to have that amended so that it's no longer a law, as stated, that we will have to petition and send a bill in to the General Assembly and get it passed through the House and the Senate. Probably cannot be done at this session, but when we come back in January, and certainly our delegation will be meeting with the county, we always do. And you have a liaison person that meets with us and give us, the delegation, those things that are important to the county, and the city has one and the school board has one. So each of you, and UNCC, the college, and they meet with the delegation, explain to us what they want, and that's how it moves forward. And that's how it has the strength.
Well, yeah, that's the normal legislative process that we've all used. However, this situation, I believe, is more urgent in that the citizens are calling for the removal. We're hampered from being able to do that because of the law that's in place. So is there not some emergency legislation that can be enacted, or
well, you know, the governor can issue an executive order when that's in his ballpark.
Okay, well then I'm asking that the Mecklenburg delegation, all 12 of you, how many ever it is,
17. Mm-hmm.
17. Okay, mm-hmm. Ask the governor to be able to allow Mecklenburg County to do that.
Just put it in writing. I think someone has already done that.
Okay.
Someone has sent forward, and I think yesterday I got a letter asking, but it didn't ask that way, what is your opinion? It was what the letter said. And I guess they want to get some feelers before they move forward with it about the monuments.
Okay, so you got that from our legislative liaison. I will go back and make sure that that's more definitive.
Okay, absolutely. But I think you're right. So a letter to each of the, well, Kelly Alexander is our chair of the delegation, but once everybody gets it, I think it would be real important. We all can work together to make that happen.
Thank you.
That's awesome. The action in District 4. See how that happens. Thank you. That was awesome. I have two more questions from the participants or from the audience regarding the housing assistance. Miles. Someone asked, how do they apply for the funding opportunities that you mentioned?
They can go to the website that was put up there, and that's www.rampclt.com.
We're having a little trouble hearing you. Hopefully Donata got it, but if not, you're saying RAM in Mary?
RAM as in Michael.
Okay.
P as in Paul. C as in Charles, L as in Larry, and Tony.com.
Okay, so rampcharlotte.com or the abbreviation for, so ramp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about the technical difficulty here.
That's okay. We got through it. And there was I thought I had one more question. There was a question for Neil. Gene Woods announced a program that would distribute one mask throughout the state. How will the mask be?
Sorry, I think I caught the last part of the question. Was that how will the mask be distributed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good question. So we're still working on that. We have 3 major plans that I'll share with this group today, and then I think we'll be announcing more plans to distribute them in the coming weeks and days. Number 1, we distribute masks for everyone that shows up at our roving mobile testing sites, the ones that I told you about earlier, where we're going into communities in need. We actually provide masks to everyone who's been tested there. I didn't mention it earlier, but we have launched a campaign called Para tu Salud, which in Spanish means for your health. And that campaign is to launch culturally and linguistically appropriate educational materials and outreach to the Hispanic community around COVID-19. So we have several activities planned where we're going to go to grocery stores and other places that are heavily trafficked, but by our Hispanic neighbors, to make sure that we're providing education and distributing masks through those pathways. And then the Kids Eat Free program that I mentioned earlier at University City, for all the folks that are coming through there, we're going to distribute masks there. And then we also have medication drops throughout our catchment area, and we're distributing there. I do think we'll be, through our community engagement team, we'll be planning some additional announcements around places where we'll have distribution campaigns. So that is what I can share for now, but I look forward to sharing more details soon.
Thank you. All right, well, it is 7:57. I want to respect everyone's time. I appreciate you all. I appreciate the resources. We will share your contact information, your email addresses in the comments so that individuals can reach out to you all directly. And again, thank you for the resources. This has been very informative and very productive. Is there anyone that wants to say something before we leave that didn't have an opportunity to say something?
I would encourage people, this is Joyce Mondale.
Okay.
Every day, or every other day, there's an update on television with the governor and with Dr. Mandy Cohen talking about coronavirus and talking about the things that we should be doing. And she usually says the 3 W's: to wash, to wait, and also to wear. And we think about the wash, wait, and wear, those 3 W's, and we need to keep those in mind at all times. And usually it's breaking news. It's every other day on network television. They talk about our update on the number of cases, the people that are in the hospital, the sicknesses, and the people that are recovering, and encouraging people to wait, to wash, and to wear.
Well, thank you, Senator Waddell. That's the 4th W and Waddell. So thank you. And we do want to send our condolences to any families who've lost someone from the COVID virus, and just prayers for those who are recovering, and just stay safe. And like Senator Waddell said, wash, wait, and wear. So continue to stay safe. We appreciate your time. Again, the contact information will be in the comments, and I sincerely thank you. Thank you all to the participants. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.